Here we are. Get cracking on Christmas. It is August, and like Heather just said in the chat, she's starting to feel the fall and winter crafting vibes, so she's ready to get cracking. So all of you that thought I was kind of a little crazy working on my holiday cards in the spring and in the early summer, now's the time. Hop on this train with me. Let's get cracking on our holiday cards. So if you guys don't already know me, I am Jenn and I host Get Crackin' on Christmas. Every month, I post my card on the third Thursday of the month, and at the same time, I announce when I will go live. Because one thing that I absolutely love to do is to teach you guys how I have created my projects. If you don't know already, I absolutely love to teach card making, paper crafting, and so this is just a fun little spin-off of Get Crackin' on Christmas. Not only do I get to get my holiday cards done, and not only do I get to invite you guys along for the creative journey, but I also get to teach you guys fun techniques, tips, and tricks throughout the year. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, Brienne's in the chat. She says, happy Get Crackin' on Christmas. I love it. I don't know why I sing Get Crackin' on Christmas, and I don't know why I give a little jig. It happened many, many moons ago, and I just have kept it up. So let me know if you are joining me live. Let me know if you've already started your holiday cards. Are you going to be working on something crafty today? Maybe you're on your lunch break for work. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. All of the details about my cards today are always over on my website. The link is here on the screen, but there's a clickable link down in the description of the video. And my the main supplies used on my cards are also linked below. Not to mention, I have the Queen linking ninja in the chat, and I know she'll do amazing at linking all of the things. And that is Miss Brienne, if you don't know that already. Yes, I have a little sun on my face. I got back from vacation. We were away last week. I call it a little bit of a staycation because we actually don't leave Cape Cod. We just go further down Cape to Provincetown, and we rent a house with our friends for the week. And it was so nice. Reading, coffee, going to bed early. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but we had a blast. And then, of course, on Thursday is the big parade, carnival, and we definitely had fun on that day. Less reading, less going to bed early. It was lots and lots of fun. So Melissa just said, I need to know what stencil you used for these cards, which I'm going to go ahead and flip the screen. You guys have seen enough of me. Let's show the star of the show, right? So the stencil that I used is linked in the description of the video and over on my blog post. This one is by Waffle Flower, and I apologize. I cannot find the packaging for it. I left the stencil in my drying rack, and now I'm just not finding the sleeve to put it in. But it is Waffle Flower. It is linked. There's also a really good Lawn Fawn Snowflake stencil that I've used in the past. So if I've enabled you for that, you could definitely use that as well. I love it. The song and the wiggle is definitely a great addition. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, Heather says Jen figured out how to add fancy hold music. I'm getting fancier. I'm getting better with this technology. 2025 has been a year of growing pains with technology, but we're in August and I'm feeling good about it. Let's see. Yay. Kathy has a few holiday cards completed, but she needs a bunch more. Last day of summer break, back to teaching tomorrow. Good luck with that, Michelle. And Brienne says, I'm doing lives in between staining trim for our patio all day. Yeah, Brienne has been making like her own little staycation patio in her backyard. Hello, Diana from Minnesota. I'm not recognizing your last name, but I wonder if I have ever seen you at Firefly Farm. And Sandy's prepping for Create With Us. Yes, Create With Us. I will be live Thursday night on Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel. Love that. Yay. Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you guys for joining. So these are the cards that I shared last week on Thursday, and I am calling them extra, extra sparkle because not only does the paste have sparkle, but I'm using sparkle cardstock. I'm using yummy, chunky sparkle on the bottoms of the letters. And then because I wasn't quite done, I threw in some other sparkle cardstock as well. So when I was trying to title this live and this blog post, I was like, these are extra, extra sparkle. And I'm quite happy with that little description of this. So for these cards here, let's go ahead and just jump right in. I'm going to make one of each color scheme for you guys today so you can kind of see how that is going down. But I did cooking show style it, and I did paste some Distress watercolor cardstock so that they will be dry in time. Sorry, let me get all my pieces out. Everything's. So I did pre-paste 2 panels but I'm going to go through and paste one panel with you just so you can kind of see how I go about it. All right. So this is Distress watercolor cardstock. I'm not doing a ton of wet technique, but I am doing a little bit of splatter. So I just wanted to be safe. And I love Distress watercolor cardstock. It definitely is one of my favorite papers that I use. Jessica, this is not Olive and June. I've been cheating a little bit this summer because I really wanted a neon pink. So if you send me an email, I'll let you know what it is. I always forget what it is because all I ever use is Olive and June. But yeah, I needed a neon pink this summer. So I'm doing a little cheat with Olive and June, but I'm sure I'll be back using Olive and June soon enough. Hello. Oh yeah, Lori says, I'm hoping that some techniques will apply to Hanukkah cards. For sure. I mean, these could be blues and purples. I mean, you could keep them these colors and still be a Hanukkah card, but they definitely will work for Hanukkah cards as well. I think snowflakes are perfect for that theme. Let's see. Thank you, Miss Brienne, for linking all the things. Hello, Mary Lou. So I'm going to use my Make Art Station so that my stencil will stay in place. So I like to add a little bit of Tombow removable adhesive just to hold my paper in place. This is just a very, very thin magnetic board. I love it because it's easy to store right in the drawer next to me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our stencil and put it in place. And Waffle Flower is great. They've got an A2 etching all the way around. So if you want to make sure you're lining things up nicely, you've got that to refer to. The Make Art Station comes with these really nice, they're strong magnets, but they're not like a pain in the butt to work with, if that makes sense. They're very easy to move and use. And so I store my magnets on my Raskog cart next to me so that, again, this is just a thin board that I'm putting in my drawer without the magnets. And that makes it nice and easy. All right. So I think it was last week, like not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, Tim and Ranger announced 2 new yummy things for part of their distress line. One is this Distress Texture Paste Twinkle, which I'm going to use. And the other is Distress Snowflakes, which I'm going to use towards the end. So you guys know me. I love everything distress. I'm a little bit of a distress addict, but I mean, when you can combine distress and some sparkle, I kind of feel like Tim and Ranger made these just for me. I think they were like, Jenn Cherkas loves to glitter all of the things. Let's go ahead and make this for her. I think that's what happened in the Ranger facility for sure. All right, I'm trying to open this. My left hand is really sore. My knuckles. I don't know what's going on with me. Probably from all my rest. But this is just a paste that it's translucent, but it doesn't look translucent in the jar. And I like to pick up the paste with the back of my palette knife. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and just spread it through the stencil. And you don't need a lot. I actually probably took a little bit too much, but don't hesitate to move your board so it's a little bit easier to get in there. Okay. And I'm just kind of pressing the paste down, but then I'm gently scraping across so it's kind of even. It's not a big deal if it's not. I'm more so doing it so that I have enough paste on my palette knife to be able to use what I have and not have to go get more. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, so I'm just making sure the whole stencil is covered with paste. Okay, there is a little bit left on my palette knife and I didn't taint it with any dyes or inks or anything. So I'm going to put that right back in the jar. Tim does recommend to keep your paste nice and, you know, wet for a long time. You could use a piece of parchment paper or what is it called? Press and seal. Cape Cod, where I live, is fairly humid. He lives in Arizona and I use my stuff a lot. So I haven't really had to do that, but I do make sure that I put the cap on nice and tight. And yeah, so then we're going to go ahead and just remove these magnets. I'm putting them over here right back on my Rascog cart, which is just one of those metal rolly carts. And then we're going to go ahead and peel this back. All right. And we have our pasted yummy snowflakes, right? So I'm going to set this one aside to dry. I'm looking around my desk, like where's a safe place? And then I'll bring in my dry ones and we'll get started. Now, I'm not going to go run and clean this in the sink, although that's what I prefer to do. I'm just using some water and my flour sackcloth. You don't want to let your paste dry on your stencils, because then it might start to like hinder the design a bit. So I'm just using water for a quick clean. But if I was not live right now, I would just get up and go clean this in the sink. All right. All right. And if you're here live, feel free to ask any questions you guys might have. This is kind of like a learning time for you. So I'm happy to answer questions. Putting the word question in all caps before your question is super helpful. And if you're catching the replay, you can leave your questions or comments below in the description area, and I'll be happy to answer those as well. But there we go. My stencil is clean and ready to use again. All right. And so, like I said, these are the ones that I pre-did that are nice and dry. So this paste, this Distress, I want to say the words right, Distress Texture Paste Twinkle, it's dries clear. It doesn't really matter for this because I kept my paper white. But you guys can see there's some sparkle in there, which makes my glitter loving heart very, very happy. All right. So I'm going to be working right directly on my desktop, which is made of glass. And what I ended up doing this time is I'm going to use actually Distress Oxides. Now, I love Distress Oxides, but I think I use regular Distress inks so much better. I just like how much brighter they are. I like how translucent they are. But for this one, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my Distress Oxides so that I could get a little bit more of a creamier look. And then I also knew that the water droplets would stand out really, really nicely. Heather says, does the watercolor cardstock hold up to pastes better as well? I'm sure it does, just because it is a really nice heavyweight and it holds up to moisture very well. So yeah, definitely your paper matters. If you're using pastes, you don't want to use very flimsy, lightweight cardstocks for sure. All right, you guys. So if you know me, you know I have loved the ink stands almost since they've come out. Pretty darn close to when Brienne first created them. And you can even see how loved mine are because I use them all the time, right? But Tim had asked Brienne to create some black ones to hold his ink pads. And I just love the way the Distress ink pad looks in the black holder. It just looks so pretty. It just is kind of like the way it's meant to be, right? So I said to Brienne, I'm like, oh, I'm going to need those. And so I am stocking the black squares in my online store now. And then there's the new mini palette that Brienne can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it holds 7 mini ink pads, which is like kind of perfect for a rainbow. I'm carrying those now in my online shop as well. So Jennabler alert, Jennabler alert, Jennabler alert. Okay, so because I'm using Distress Oxides, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of information. I am not going to use blender brushes. I feel like blender brushes have such fine little bristles, which is awesome. That's what makes it so easy to ink blend with our dye-based inks because of the tiny little bristles. We don't need the little bristles for Distress Oxides because Distress Oxides are a dye pigment fusion. And because of that pigment property in there, they're going to blend like butter no matter what you do, right? So what I like to use when I am ink blending with Distress Oxides is just my ink blending tool with a piece of foam, all right? Years and years ago, I created a handle for every Oxide and every regular Distress ink. And I have them in my drawers right next to me because I use Distress inks so much, okay? You probably don't need that. What's nice about this is you can just switch out the foam and switch colors very, very easily, all right? But with Distress Oxides, you can get a nice smooth blend with flat foam, domed foam, whatever. And I just think it's kind of wasteful to use your blending brushes because you shouldn't use the same blending brushes for Distress Oxide versus the regular inks like regular Distress and Lawn Fawn. Because of that pigment property, you don't want to mix the formulas in your ink pads. So I say keep one set of very loved blending brushes like I have here, right, for your regular dye inks, and then use an ink blending tool for your Distress Oxides. That's just my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. So I'm going to use just dried Marigold first. We're going to do 2 different color schemes today. And I'm just going to come in down on the top with some of this yummy dried Marigold. Now, because we put the paste down, it's going to repel the ink, right? And because it was white under the paste, we're going to see white shine through. You could totally do this where you ink blend a color, then put your paste on and then ink blend over it. And then we would see a colored snowflake. But again, because they're snowflakes, I was good keeping them white. So I'm starting with dried Marigold. And then I'm going to do Abandoned Coral. So you guys will have to announce to Shari I added a little bit of red to my cards. It's a pinky red. Let's see. Brienne says, I just got this paste yesterday. Can't wait to try it. And then she mentioned, yeah, my inkstands are the originals with the magnets. Shows you how long I've been using them. And Melissa says, do you prefer the flat foam or the domed foam? So, oh, I'm grabbing the wrong ink blending tool because it's black. So if I am ink blending regular Distress ink and I want to use foam to get a more intense color, which we've done in some of my classes, I like the domed foam for regular Distress ink. But for Distress Oxide, again, because it's so creamy, you can use either foams. It really does not matter. I promise, okay? It's going to blend smoothly no matter what. Let's see. Michelle says, I created a board with Velcro to store all my foam for each color. I love that. Yeah, dried marigold is a really pretty color, and I don't use it very often. So I was enjoying these cards. I made them before I left for vacation. All right. Don't worry about this up here where it looks a little rough. We're going to fix that in just a minute. And then we're going to finish off with picked raspberry down below. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to actually just wipe my table off a little bit, all that extra color. And I'm going to flip my paper because I just find it easier to come down. But you can see I'm like not really putting any effort in, and I'm getting a really, really nice smooth blend. Okay. Let's see. Pam's asking, do you use the same blending brushes you use for distress inks for your other dye inks? Yes, I do. My blending brushes I use for all water-based dye inks. So regular Distress, Lawn Fawn, Pink Fresh, and I even use them with the positively saturated inks from Simon Says Stamp. Okay. Now that we have all three colors down, you'll see it kind of looks a bit choppy and not blended per se. What we're going to do is take the lighter of the two colors and buff that line. So Abandoned Coral is, I feel, a bit darker than Picked Raspberry. And to be perfectly honest, I want more Picked Raspberry on my card. So I'm buffing that line in between the two colors with my Picked Raspberry blending tool. All right. And then between Abandoned Coral and Dried Marigold, I am going to buff with the lighter of the two colors, which is Dried Marigold. And you don't even need to put more ink on your brush. I'm just buffing between the two, and you can see right away how that blended and made it a nice, more smooth blend. All right. Let's see. Kristen says, did you mention how long to wait for the paste to dry? Can you heat dry it? Sorry if I missed you already saying that. I didn't really say, Kristen, how long. It's going to depend on where you live, what your humidity is like, how dry it is in your house. But what I will just say is some pastes you most certainly can dry. This specific paste, this Texture Paste Twinkle, I can kind of tell just from the feel of it. It has a bit of a plasticky feel, although it's not plastic by any means. That leads me to feel like I should not heat dry it because it's going to react to that formula. Now, Tim does have some Distress pastes in his line that you could heat up to speed up the process. But what I would just do is, like, for instance, what I did when I created my cards is I just spread the paste on, set them aside to dry, and at the same time, I, white embossed my black sentiments here. I die cut my letters. I got other things ready, and by the time I got back to my backgrounds, they were ready to go. Hopefully that helps. But I don't really think anybody can give you an exact time frame to how long things are going to dry, because all of us live in different parts of the world where our weather is different. And what dry time I have right now is going to be different, in January. So yeah. All right. Yay. Let's see. Good. All right. So then for the second color combo, what I did was a more cool color combo. So I'm going to start with Cracked Pistachio. And we're going to come down the top with that. I love the inkstand because it holds my ink pad in place. I don't need to like chase it across the table. I also love it because it keeps your fingertips clean. You're not trying to hold on to your ink pad. I don't know how I would live without an inkstand, but I will say if you have a lot of mini inks, you definitely need one of the mini holders. I only have the Pink Fresh mini inks and I ink blend a lot with those. And having them in this holder just makes it so much easier to juice up your blending brush to be able to ink blend. I don't know how I would survive without having it for the minis. Having it for your larger pads is very, very nice, and I just love it, but it's a definite need for the minis. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little bit of Lucky Clover. I'm going to add that on here. Again, I'm not going to worry about how rough it looks going into that cracked pistachio because I know I'm going to fix it. And then lastly, we're going to finish off with some peacock feathers. And I'm going to go ahead and just wipe my glass tabletop off so I can flip this around and we won't get any of those other colors in there. Okay. And so now I'm going to come down from the top. I just find that easier the way I'm holding my blending tool, but whatever's comfortable for you. But don't forget, you're the boss of the paper and you can kind of move it around, right? So I'm going to stick with my peacock feathers and buff in between the line of the Lucky Clover and the peacock feathers, right? And then I'm going to grab my ink blending tool for cracked pistachio and I'm going to buff between Lucky Clover and cracked pistachio. And you can see right away, it just smooths everything out and looks super, super awesome. And I just love how quick that was to ink blend those backgrounds. This is definitely a set of cards that you could make a bunch at once. And if you haven't been Get Crackin' with me all year, you could make a whole stack of these, you know, and it won't take you that long because the process is really pretty easy. Hello, Tess. Glad you're here. You do realize, Tess, that the title of this Get Crackin' is Extra Sparkle. Let's see. How is the ink not dyeing the snowflakes? It's not because the paste has like, I don't want to say plastic because I don't know what the formula of the paste is, but the paste is dry and it's now made it a slick, non-porous surface so that it's not picking up the ink colors. All right. Barbara says, every time I see picked raspberry, I think it says pickled. I love that. That's so funny. Yeah, cracked pistachio is a really pretty color. And Brienne says, I think it's funny that full-size distress inks were the whole reason why she made the ink stands, and she still doesn't have them. That is hilarious. All right, so I'm going to set these, actually, no, I'm not going to set these aside. We're going to do some splattering. So the first thing that I wanted to do was splatter some water droplets because I knew that the Distress Oxides and the regular Distress inks react to water really nicely. I wanted to add some just water droplets where it's going to take the ink away. All right. So you could use your Distress Sprayer for sure and get some fun water droplets. But sometimes I like to just use my paintbrush where I'm bringing a lot of water up on the tip of my paintbrush. And I'm just going to tap just like I would if I was splattering a paint or, you know, an ink. We're just going to splatter some water droplets. Now, it takes a minute to be able to see the water droplets. So for sure, go splatter crazy if you want to, but I would encourage you to just kind of do a little and then wait. You can kind of start to see on camera here where it's starting to happen. I like to let it marinate, let it wait a little bit before I'm going to blot the water away, and then you're really going to be able to see the droplets. Tess says exits group. So if you guys don't know my friend Tess, she has been glittering with me for many, many years. I won't admit to how many because I don't want either of us to sound old. And even though I try so hard to teach everybody how to cleanly glitter, that's just one skill she can't master. So it's a little joke between us friends when I said to her today's tutorial is called Extra Extra Sparkle. Yay, Heather's going to definitely make these backgrounds. I love it. That makes me so happy. It's actually, you know, these are really, really fun and not that hard to do. All right. You can take a clean paper towel and blot your backgrounds if you want. I like to live on the wild side and I try not to use a lot of paper towels. So I'm just using my flour sackcloth. I didn't have anything transfer last time I did it. The flour sackcloths are really absorbent. So even though mine looks really messy, it's not transferring whatever's in here onto here. But look at those fun splatters. Are they not like so fun, right? All right. So now we're going to splatter a little bit more. I was like, I'm not done. I want to add some white splatters. So I have 3 different types of white splatters. And I just feel like I need to announce that because I don't know about you guys if you have multiple white splatters, but I've had this Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White for a wicked, wicked long time. And I grab it quite frequently and I use it a ton. Then Spellbinders came out with their splatter white. It also works really, really well and I love it. And then Simon Says Stamp just came out with Positively Perfect White Splatter Medium. And I tried using it the other day. Oops, I just dripped some. And I don't know, I actually need to email them because I feel like it's not as opaque as I wanted it to be, but that might be what they want. So I discovered this before I left on vacation and I just haven't had a chance to email them. But you guys can even see it's just much more watery. And so, yeah, so I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys like to use for splatter. I'm curious. Today I'm going to just use my Dr. P.H. Martin's splatter. Now, the one thing about splatter is it is harder to clean up off of your glass tabletop or mat. But what works really well is not the isopropyl alcohol that I use to clean up everything, but I just use my Method spray cleaner and that works really well. So I'm not going to do that today while you guys are live with me. But just so you know, when you see splatters on my desk, I will be able to clean those off very easily. So I use the back of my paintbrush and I just scoop some of this white paint or whatever. It's not really white paint because it really sits on top of the colors really, really well. And then I just add a little bit of water. Let me just clean my paintbrush. But I just add a little bit of a wet brush to it to get it a little bit more fluid. Okay. And then we're going to add some white splatters. And I do it the same way I added my water splatters. I put my paintbrush over at a horizontal way and I'm just tapping. And I kind of try to get my splatters to go in a diagonal. Now we know splatters have their own mind of their own. So that's not always going to be the case, but that's kind of what my brain is thinking about to try to help direct it a little bit. But I just love the mixture of the water splatters and the white splatters. I just thought it added some really nice texture to these backgrounds. Looks like I have a kitty hair on here, which is not surprising. Jack has been with me a lot since we got home. He definitely missed us for sure. Let's see. I've noticed on others creators projects, the Simon Says stamp splatter isn't as opaque. Okay, so maybe it's not just my bottle. I do think I'll get off this live and I'm going to just shoot them an email and just ask so I can learn a little bit more about it. It came in one of the card kits that I got, and so I'm still fairly new to it. Pam says she uses the P.H. Martins. Melissa says, I'm intrigued by the Simon Says Stamp White Splatter because they said you don't need to water it down. It's definitely more fluid for sure. And Heather says, I'm not much of a white splatter girl, but I do love a rainbow spray splatter. I love that. That's awesome. Is that acrylic paint? I find I need to clean it right away before it dries or I can't get rid of it. It's not acrylic paint per se, because it sits on top of everything much better than acrylic paint. But these little bit of splatters that I have left, I will just clean with my Method house cleaner and it'll take it all right away. Nora says, I just discovered that the Hickory Smoke Distress Spray Stains watered down is a really opaque splatter, almost like snow. That's right. Nora was just at an event with Seth Apter and she learned that trick from him. I love that. That is so cool. All right. For the sake of the live and not having a lot of time for things to dry, I am going to just zap these with my Ranger heat tool. This is not an embossing gun, so I'm not concerned about it scorching and burning the paper. I like to lift my paper up off my table because the heat is going through the paper, bouncing off the table and coming back up and heating the back of the paper too. And that helps things dry a lot quicker. And really, I'm just getting these white splatters to dry. Normally, I would let them air dry, but because I want to move on to my other steps with you guys, I'm speeding up the process. Okay. Good enough. All right. So the next thing that I did with my backgrounds is I die cut them with Lawn Fawn's outside in stitched rectangle. And that's going to cut that down an 1/8 of an inch off of all 4 sides. And it's also going to give it a really nice little stitching, which is just a really nice finished look. Just grabbing my die cut machine. So I lay my die so that the cutting part is up like so. I'm just trying to get this on camera for you guys and move my water so I don't spill it. And then I just take my background and lay it on top. Put the cutting plate on and crank it through. Brenda uses Altenews white gouache, which is nice. I haven't used that before. I do think you spelt that correctly, Brenda. And Lori says she uses correction fluid in the tube. That works as well. Thank you, Susan. All right, so now you'll see, and I find because I have paste on here, sometimes I just have to guide my scissors. It's not that the die didn't work. It's just really thick with the paste and the paper and everything. It's all cut. I just sometimes have to guide my scissors a little bit to get it going. But see that really cute stitching? It's so cute. It's like my favorite. I love it. So I'm going to put my die down, blades up, lay my background down over it, and then we're going to go ahead and crank it through. Does your heat tool ever turn red inside? Do you know if that means it's too hot? I got a new one because my old one did that and would shut off. And my new one does it too, except it doesn't turn off. You know, the Ranger heat tool, I'm not sure if it does turn red inside. I haven't really paid attention. If it is the Ranger heat tool, I would just shoot Ranger an email. Their customer service is really awesome, and they will definitely be able to help you. Hello, hello. If you're just popping in, thanks for joining me. So again, it's not that the die didn't cut it. It just kind of has to get started. Because of that paste, it's like kind of gripping to it. But how cute. I love it. I love it. All right. So for the sentiments, what I did is I already pre-did 'Tis the Season 2. Okay. And I've shared many times on my videos and on my lives and in my classes how I do my white embossing to get a nice crisp white emboss. And what I used for these sentiments, which I forgot to pull the actual sets, but Lawn Fawn has all of these Henry's Build a Sentiments. This is the fall one that just came out. They have a winter one, they have a love one, they have all different ones. And so I was able to find 'Tis the Season from the winter set. And then I grabbed just the word to from, it just happened to be in the love set. But what's neat about these sets is you can mix and mingle them and they all work together and you can create really fun sentiments. And they can just be short sentiments or they could be longer sentiments to stamp on the inside of your cards, which I think is super awesome. So I pre-did that. And then I also pre-die cut the word sparkle twice. And I just want to show you guys one thing I had fun with when I created these cards is the placement of the sentiment. So this one's a little bit more in the center. This one's towards the bottom. This one's up towards the top. And this one's up even farther. So I just thought it was really fun. And maybe it'll inspire you to think a little bit about placing your sentiments in different places, because I just think that would be really, really cool, right? I just think it looks neat. And it's a nice way to kind of switch them up so they look a little different one from another. So the way that I'm going to add my sentiments so that they stay nice and straight is I'm not using the magnet part of this board. I'm just utilizing the grid that is on here. And I'm going to take my letters, and these are Quinn's ABCs from Lawn Fawn. I just die cut the dies. They do have coordinating stamps, but in this case, I'm just using the dies, and I cut them out of Lawn Fawn's Pixie Dust Sparkle cardstock. And so we're going to spell out the word sparkle. I kind of like threw my bits and pieces all over my table. So now it's become a little bit of a scavenger hunt. And if I have a sentiment or a word that is longer, I just bring in my background to make sure that it's going to fit within the parameters of the card. So I'm just going to kind of tuck things in a little bit more, a little bit tighter together, just because I can see I'm really utilizing that space, right? And then what I'm going to do is take a piece of the Best Ever craft tape. And this is the same tape that I use to hold my dies in place. This is the wider tape though. And I really like using the wider tape when I am using a sparkle cardstock like this, because the sparkle kind of doesn't want to stick to the tape as well. So I just find it easier to use a thicker tape so that I can make sure it really holds on to the letters. And I place the tape down and I'm able to pick these up all as one swoop. And now I'm going to add some foam strips to the backs of the letters. These are the Scrapbook Adhesives white foam strips, and they're the perfect width to make this not be hard or a pain in the butt. And I typically do like all of the vertical lines first. And then I worry about any of the trickier letters, like the ones that have curves or what have you. So you can see how I'm just kind of doing all my vertical lines first, okay? The way I do my E is I just do 3 little horizontal pieces. I like that these foam strips are very easy to cut. They're not going to gunk up your scissors at all. We'll put a little piece here on the A. And then what I'm going to do, like for the P, I'm just going to put a vertical piece right there. And then for the S, I'm just going to do like a diagonal piece. You don't need to cover all of the letter to have it stand up, you know, a ton. Okay. So let's see if we can get that. There we go. So you can see I didn't even put a piece on the bottom of the K. And again, all of the S isn't covered, but it's going to stand up perfectly fine. So I'm just going to place this down, my first background, and we're going to gently peel off the liner. That's one thing I try really carefully not to pull the letter up. So you can see I'm even kind of just putting my finger at the edge of the letter. Again, that sparkle cardstock, it's great and the sparkle doesn't shed and it die cuts beautifully, but it's not wanting to stick to the tape. So you want to be extra careful that you're just holding those letters in place as you take the liners off so that you're not peeling your letter off, because then it just becomes a little bit trickier to reline up your letters. All right. So now that I have all of that peeled, I'm going to figure out where I want to place my sentiment. And like I said, I could go down low, I could go more in the center, I could go up high. I think I'm going to go down low on this one, right near that stitching. So I place that down, give it a little press, and then we're just going to gently peel back the tape. And it's all nice and straight. And we're going to do the same thing for our other one. So I'm going to quickly line up the letters. Thank you, Miss Brienne. She's linking all the things in the chat. But if you are watching on replay, they are linked in the description as well. I love this sentiment. 'Tis the season to sparkle. If this isn't a Jenn Shirkus holiday card sentiment, I don't know what is. All right, so I am making sure I'm within the frame of the card with my letters. So I am now going to take my same piece of tape, lay it down, press on those letters to make sure I'm picking them up. And we're going to just quickly add the foam strips. Yay! Shelly says, I may or may not have just snuck away to put some distressed twinkle paste on a few cards to dry for later. I love that. And remember, if you guys are working on your holiday cards with me all year, you're get cracking on Christmas, feel free to tag me in your posts so that I can see what you're making, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm sharing with you guys today. I still love to see what you're creating. I also have a really fun Facebook group that you can join, my Creative Chick Studio Share Facebook group. And you're more than welcome to share your Get Crackin' on Christmas cards in there as well. And it's just fun to have it seem like we're all working together. And it's also really fun to just feel like we're part of a community, right? Not doing things solo. While I'm just finishing up adding the foam strips on these letters, I do just want to mention I will be live again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time right here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be going over all the details for my upcoming classes this fall. I have a lot of really fun classes that I am offering, and whether you've taken my classes before or maybe you've never taken them ever, it'll be a fun live to either be there live or catch the replay, so I can go over all of those details with you. So I'll be live tomorrow, August 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then Thursday, I think, yeah, August 28th, I will be live on Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel with Kelly Marie, one of the owners of Lawn Fawn. We're doing our free Create With Us mini class. And so you guys can join us there. And that's a really fun time as well. All right. So this time I went low. Now I'm going to go high. Just going to scooch this down high-ish. And we're going to go ahead and place our letters down. Let's see. Heather says, if I wanted to do this background, but in like a red and a green traditional sort of palette, Heather says, what colors would you suggest? Well, not really a traditional girl, Heather. I will just say when you start to blend red and green together on the same card, there's a chance, depending on the red and green you choose, it starts to look mucky and almost brown-like. So what I might suggest is do a variety of reds on one card and a variety of greens on another card. But I'm trying to think, like, you probably could do cracked pistachio and abandoned coral together. I'm wondering if this is dry yet. This is dry, so we'll try blending that after this. It'll be very traditional and very unlike me, but I will test that out for you at the end. All right, so now that we have our word sparkle on, I just took my scissors and cut these little 'Tis the Season 2 into little word strips. Again, I white embossed these, and I've shared several times my favorite way of white embossing, but the quick walkthrough is to use a white pigment ink with a white embossing powder and to use the cottontail powder tool so that you won't have any static cling and you won't get any little white flecks where you don't want it. And I'm using Lawn Fawn Black Licorice cardstock. So because these are black cardstock, I like to use the black foam strips behind these so that no white peeks through on the edges. And I was just tucking this right in above the SPAR, like so. Hello, Jennifer. Glad you're here. Hey, the end is good. The end's good. We're still sparkling all the things. And there's always the replay if you're curious about something, but you've been crafting for a long time. I bet you can figure out what I did. All right. Linda says, I'm looking forward to your class at For Crop and Create. I am too. I love those cards. And Heather says, I'm excited for both the Lawn Fawn classes. And she got the kits from Scrappy Chic this time. Love it. Brenda says, I made a couple of cards, stored them in a leftover camp supply box, and then accidentally threw them away. That's a bummer. That is a bummer. And Heather says that she asked her question about colors before she remembered I don't really like red. Hey, I get it. Not everybody wants to do non-traditional holiday cards. I get it. All right, so let's go ahead and add these to a card base. Let me just grab my bone folder. And then I'm just going to add them flat to the card base, and then we'll get to our last little bit of sparkling. We want to get everything in place before we add our last bit of sparkling because it will take a little bit of time to dry. So it's best to kind of get everything where we want it. Yeah, Jennifer says, bring on the sparkle for sure. Even if you're not a big fan of sparkle, I feel like holiday cards are like an excuse to sparkle. And you can do that however you would like, whatever way works for you. All right, but see how that outside in stitch rectangle just gives that really nice white border? I love that. All right, so the next thing that I did is I used Lawn Fawn's Hearts and Stars tiny tag. Let's see. I keep it stored. It has hearts and stars in a few different sizes with a cute little tag, and I keep it stored in a stamp storage thing, because I also kind of just keep my little bits of sparkle cardstock in here. So like it's kind of too big to save, but it's the perfect size to keep to get some more star shapes and sizes, if that makes sense. So what I did is we're just going to go ahead. They have a bunch on one strip, which is awesome. So you don't have to die cut it a million times. We're just going to die cut each of these once. I'll just kind of cut this off to give myself some more space here. And I don't want this to wiggle while I die cut it. So I'm just going to place this down, and I just take that Best Ever craft tape to hold it in place right on the cutting mat that I'm using. I'm going to use my smaller die cut machine for these guys. And I'm going to do the same thing for these, because nothing's the worst than putting something through the die cut machine where you're utilizing scraps and it wiggles just enough that it doesn't, you know, it doesn't die cut what you wanted it to die cut. That is not fun. Ooh, Tess says we should challenge Jen to do a red and purple card. I actually would prefer to do a red and purple card than a red and green card, but let's see. Liz is making some Copic Classic markers using refills. Love that. And she says, how did I live without BG57, right? BG57 is a fun fall teal. All right, so now that we have all our little stars die cut, I just kind of figure out placement. And if somebody has already figured out placement for you, don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel, right? But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a big star. My cutting mat is so old that it grips to the cardstock. Big star. Then we'll add 2 medium stars. This is the scientific formula, you guys. Not really. But we'll add 2 medium stars to each. And then 2 small stars. They're not really stuck on here, you guys. It's because my cutting mat is so loved. It's gripping the paper. And then these extra stars that I'm not going to use today are going to go back into this little bag, and I will have them for another project, right? Because sometimes you just need like 1 star and you don't want to have to die cut it. So again, that's my little storage method for that type of thing. It's all together, easy to use. All right. Hearts and Stars skinny tags from Lawn Fawn. So now what I'm going to do is using my Lawn Fawn glue tube and my pickup tool, which kind of has that waxy tip. I'm going to add a little bit of Lawn Fawn glue tube and place the star into it. My glue tube is happy to see me. It's the first time I've used it since I got back from vacation, so it's like ready to go. And I like to drop the stars in. I'm not pressing down because then you'll get glue kind of oozing out of the edges. So I'm using just the poker tool on the end to kind of lift it up on top of the glue tube. I don't press the star into the glue, if that makes sense. I just kind of place it on top. Let gravity do its course. It will stick to it. It'll settle down. It won't be sitting so high once it gets all dry. So I'm doing 5 stars per card, kind of following that diagonal rule that I talked about when I did my splatters. I say rule very loosely because we know there is no rules in creating except to have fun. But how cute, right? Just adding that little bit of gold. So we've sparkled our paste, right? Our paste was the new Distress Texture Paste Twinkle. We've got sparkle cardstock from Lawn Fawn in Pixie Dust and Gold. And then lastly, we're going to use the new Distress Snowflakes. And this is really fun. It's a mixture of glitter and mica flakes, the Distress mica flakes. And you guys know me, I will take all of the sparkly things to use all of the time. Now, when I use Distress Rock Candy or Distress Mica Flakes, I like to use the Distress Collage Medium because it is a bit stronger, and I just feel like it's going to hold on to the chunk better. Okay. And I am drawing this on like the bottoms of my letters fairly generously. And if it's a tall letter like the P or the L, I go up the side a little bit. Let's see. Jennifer says, red is technically my favorite color, although that may be changing in age. And I still limit how much I use it. And Danielle says, my husband just looked at the screen and said, well, that kind of looks like your cards. And I said, well, it's probably more so because I've done a lot of her classes. I love it. Hi, Danielle. It's nice to hear you and your husband are together. All right. So I am using my fingers. I probably, if glitter bothers you, I probably would use a spoon. But I feel like the glitter that's in this, it isn't quite rock candy. And it's definitely not Prisma glitter. I find like it doesn't stick with me forever. But you could use a spoon. And then I just gently tap it into that adhesive. And then we tap it off. And you can see I've already got it stored in my glitter storage containers so that I won't make as much of a mess. But I just absolutely love that extra sparkle on the bottoms of these sparkly letters. The Distress Collage Medium comes out white, but it will dry clear. So once I get the Snowflake mixture on these letters, I'll bring up my dry cards to show you. But be generous, put a lot on there, and then just give it a gentle tap with the back of the spoon just to kind of get it into that wet glue. Tap it off, and oh, I just love it. I love it. I love it. Now, these are mica flakes, so sometimes you're going to get a natural looking mica, like this one right here had a little bit of brown in it, and I just don't want that on this specific card, so just pick it away like I just did with my tweezers, right? Look at that. And so here we can see, I got a little mess over here for you, Tess, but let me just zoom in. How yummy it is. It's just like a whole, it's like 3 dimensions of sparkle on those letters. And I just love it. It's subtle. The mica flakes give it some texture. It's just really, really fun. Right? Oh yeah. Snow globe shakers for sure. And so I am stocking this Distress Snowflake in my online shop because my mantra is to glitter all of the things. So I've gotta have all the supplies for you guys to glitter all the things. But look how fun, right? And you can see the little subtle sparkle in the paste, right? So before I let you guys go, we will do a quick blend. Let's see if we can get some red and green action on my background that I pasted at the beginning of class, or beginning of the live. Sorry, it's not really a class. I feel like it is. I feel like it's a class. Let's see what Cracked Pistachio and a little bit of Abandoned Coral looks like together. We'll see. This could be a disaster, so no judging. But let's start with a little bit of Cracked Pistachio, and we'll go right here. Okay. Grab a little Abandoned Coral. There we go. Hey, Miss Libby. Danielle says, I don't think my husband came back for me. He came back for the dog. Well, at least you get to see him, right? Oh, you guys, this is like against all my creative juju. And so I'm going to buff it with the Cracked Pistachio That's pretty, right? A little hint of brown, but it is still pretty. And now I'm going to gen it up. You guys knew I wasn't going to keep it just red and green, right? But I'll gen it up. Get some warmth in here. Right? And I'll even do Lucky Clover on the top instead of peacock feathers. Let's see. Oh, Libby, you're funny. All right, and then go back just to buff in between colors. There we go. There's red and green in Jenn's world. But at least you saw the cracked pistachio. Hopefully you're still here, Heather. The cracked pistachio and the abandoned coral works, right? But then I threw in some pink and some more green, right? No, don't be afraid to blend, Michelle, because it's just paper. If this mucked up and looked yucky, I just throw away this panel of paper. It's all good. It's all good. Nothing bad is going to happen. That's what you got to do. You got to play. You got to experiment. That's what we got to do, right? So thank you to those of you that joined me live today. I do try to keep these Get Crackin' on Christmases around an hour-ish. We ran a little over today, but I love having you guys join me, whether it's live or on replay. Remember, Get Crackin' on Christmas is something I host all year long. I will post my project on the third Thursday of the month. And within that post on my website, I'll let you guys know when the day and time is for the live. And I really love doing these lives because I hope it inspires you to get cracking on Christmas, or to try a new technique, or to recreate the background we did on whatever birthday card or whatever you need to make. Make sure that you are tagging me when you are Get Crackin' on Christmas all year, because I love, love, love to see what you're creating. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. Libby's all messed up. Oh my gosh, Libby says, I'm all mixed up. Travis proposed to Taylor and I'm just so happy for them. I'm a mess. So I'm assuming that's Taylor Swift. So Jennifer Engel just said, wait, what? And now everybody's going to desert me to go figure out the newest Taylor Swift stories. She's amazing. I love it. And then Liz just says, Libby popping in to drop the bomb. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you're subscribed to my channel. And remember, I'll be back again tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, chatting with you about all of my fun upcoming classes. I would absolutely love for you to join me. And I'll catch you guys all soon. Bye.